All right, you guys, as you can see by the thumbnail, this is episode 97 of Inner Demons. And like always, I'm going to get straight to it. So check it out. Yes, I already know it's been forever since I put on my last episode of Inner Demons, about 2 weeks. I told you guys that the flu knocked me down straight up. There's a bad flu bug going around. I already told you guys. But the thing about it is this one right here, you get the full effect. And it's one where it's going to lay you out. But just when you start to think that you're coming back, it doubles back and comes back and gets you again, puts you back down. So just keep that in mind. When you start feeling better, whatever you're doing, you're taking antibiotics or you're taking cold medicine, make sure you keep taking it. And that's just some food for thought and some advice. Anyways, so episode 96. I believe I told you guys I was on my tail end, or I was on the tail end of the Breaking Barriers program. So this was a program that the Santa Clara County Jail had at that time. I don't even know if they still have it. But basically, they offered you an opportunity to enroll in a number of different type of programs that would benefit you, especially in the courts. Alcohol Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and then, like I told you guys, GED, and I'm not going to release that picture. You guys wish. Anyways, so the program, I want to say it's around 90 days, anywhere from 30 to 90 days, and then they try to get you up out of there. But, you know, there was a lot of us that were there in the program. When I say us, I'm talking about individuals that were associated with my case or with cases that we were all kind of bundled together. Trust me, there were like 4 different indictments going on, but we were all associated. So when they, you know, it was common practice for them to, whenever they would move one of us, was like they would try to move like a bunch of us. They would do it, you know, as a collective, or, you know, a number of us. I don't know why they were doing that, but that's what they were doing. Anyway, so I want to say I stayed there for around 6 months. And it got to a point where they were like, you know what, time's up. We need the space. There's other people that need to get into the program. There's a waiting list. So they offered to go to the old jail. Or there were, I believe, I want to say, let me say that one part again, Sandman, where I'm stuttering. So they offered to go. So they offered us a chance to either go to the 6th floor. I believe it was 5A was where the program was at, or 5C. I can't even remember, to be honest with you guys. It's been so long now that I forget. Anyways, I want to say it was 5C. So anyways, 5B and 5A were 2 other spots that we could go to. And then you had the 6th floor. So I didn't like the new jail. Me, myself, I kind of like the old jail. It's just a better program. It's just a better environment. And just trust me, overall, it was somewhere where I would rather be. So, you know, they threw Siberia out there. Siberia is dorm living. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not used to that type of environment as far as being locked up. I've always been used to being in a cell, being slammed down. That's how I've always done my time. So I didn't know how I was going to adjust to that kind of environment. You know, I'm kind of set in my ways. It's just from doing so much shoot time, that's how it is. I'm clean. I do things a certain way. I like things organized, and it's just better when you're by yourself or you're with somebody else that, you know, they're on that same program. So that was one of the things that I was kind of like, I don't know, man. Siberia, how many cats are in these tanks? So Siberia, I want to say it had 3 big tanks that were all on the right side. It was a hallway, and you had 3 big tanks, and I think there were 16-man tanks. And then on the left side, when you're walking down that hallway, you had like a couple, I want to say it was 4, anywhere from 4 to 6 small tanks, and they were 4 to 8-man tanks. So, you know, I opted at first to go into one of the 4-man tanks. For me, the smaller, the better, the less you got to deal with. So that's where they threw me. We all moved down there together. I want to say there was around 8 of us. They did a mass move. It was a big thing. Anytime they did anything with us in that county jail at that time, that's how boring it was in that county jail. They made a big spectacle out of it. They made it a big deal. Everybody and their mother knew about it. So we all go down to Siberia, and for the rest of that day, it was all about just like I normally do whenever I move into a cell. It didn't matter that there was other cats in there. I'm gonna scrub my bunk, scrub the walls, scrub everything down. That's just part of doing time for me. It's part of my program. So, everybody was getting situated that day. Now, here's the crazy thing though. So I know this series has been running for a while now, but if you guys think back, there was an individual that I told you about that basically he ended up cooperating, and he tried to do it on the slunders. Like he really was trying to fly up under the radar where nobody knew about it. He was trying to do some double agent type of shit in the county jail. He wanted to stay in double red. He wanted to work as a CI in the jail, and he didn't want nobody to know that he was cooperating, including other people that were on the case. He just wanted to do things his way. He was a lifer under the three strikes law. This was his third strike, so they stacked him up like they did the rest of us. And this cat, when he decided to flip, it was comical. Again, if you guys think back to an episode where I talked about this, I had the recording, and I had a chance to listen to it like we all did. Everybody's business was out there. But this guy, when he decided to cooperate, he went into that ODR room that I told you guys about, the secret squirrel room where people go down there and they burn them up. This is when they decide to cooperate. They'll go down there with or without their lawyer, and they'll sit down with law enforcement, and they'll go on that walk of shame. They won't go back to wherever they came from. They'll put them in protective custody. So Happy goes down there, I want to say with his attorney, and he goes in there with a list of demands. Like this fool really thought he was in control, but this was his personality. This was the type of dude he was, and I'm gonna get into it a little bit and tell you why I say that. But he goes in there, and I hear the recording, and he sits down with his attorney, and he's got a list of demands, and he starts running through them. He's like, he tries to control the conversation. This is how things are going to go. It was comical. It was like, this dude's crazy for real. Are you serious? He was like, look, this is how we're going to do this, and I got the pot of gold. I'm going to lead you guys to the mother lode. What I'm going to give you, everything else you guys got is nothing. It's crumbs. I'm going to give you the mother lode, the good stuff. And this is what I want. I want to stay in double red, which means, basically he wanted everybody to think he was still active. He wanted to get out as soon as he was done with the case. As soon as the case was adjudicated, he wanted to get released that day. He wanted his old lady taken care of. He wanted stuff done with his family, special arrangements made on the outside. And, obviously I'm listening to a recording, so I can't see the officers that he's talking to. I can't see him, but it had me rolling. Anybody that listened to that conversation, it would have you rolling, because you're like, man, dude, are you serious? And I could just picture, the faces on the law enforcement officers that were sitting there listening to this guy. But they let him go on his little rant and his little list of demands, and they were like, hey, first things first, man. We'll get into all that, which they had really no intentions. They were just trying to see what they could get from this guy, and then dump his ass off on the corner, because he was crazy. But that's the type of dude he was. He liked to think that he was in control, and he was a little short, stocky cat, and he had attitude. I thought we were gonna have to smash him down there, to be honest with you guys, because so he does what he does, and months down the line, everything kind of falls apart between him, his lawyer, and law enforcement. They're like, dude, we're not even gonna work with you. You're crazy. You need to slap yourself and get a, a dose of reality. Come on back down, man, because you're tripping. You're the one in a bad situation. We're going home every night. You're not in a position to make any kind of demands. Matter of fact, if we let you get on that bus, consider yourself fortunate. Otherwise, you're gonna go do life. Anyways, he tried to stand firm on his position, his little stance that he had. He ended up going from one side of the courtroom back to the other side. I liken him to Flacco, and the Flacco that I'm talking about is a Flacco. I forget his name, but he was indicted back in the '92 indictments. His name's right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember it. But this individual, he cooperated, and he told a bunch of lies. He ended up getting all caught up in it, and they ended up taking their deal back and giving him life. So this happy, he was it was kind of the same thing with him. He ended up shooting himself in the foot and he got stretched out. I'm not sure what ended up happening to him in the end, but I think he got struck out. But anyway, so when we get down there to Siberia, he shoots me a kite. I'm in there. I think he was next door to me. Matter of fact, I'm sure he was. He gets at me and he's like, I don't remember exactly what it even pertained to. He had some kind of gripe about something, and the way that he came at me, I was like, I'm not even trying to hear all that. If you got something you want to talk about, I don't know how they do yard, but we'll talk about it out there on the sun deck. The sun deck is basically when you go out to the yard. It's on top of the roof in the old jail. But I mean, I could have got into it with this cat. I could have just ran into his tank and thumped him in there. But the sun deck was the best place to do it. Besides that, I don't even think he really wanted to go there. He was the type of dude that, he would try to kick up some dust and try to act tough. But then when it came down to it, at the last minute, he'd pump his brakes and he'd take another route. You know what I mean? So, and that's exactly what he did. We went out to the sun deck. I seen him when we came out to chow because everybody eats together. But he didn't come out crazy. He came out and he just was like, yeah, we gotta chop it up, about this situation because this is something that's I don't even remember what it was. I can't even remember what he was crying about. But anyways, some of the other cats that came down there with me, they were like, let's just thump this dude. But, he didn't want it, and we didn't all need to jump on him. So, we ended up leaving him alone. And I want to say like a month or two after, he got into some kind of something with somebody else and he ended up getting rolled up. And that was the last time I seen him. But, this probably wasn't even worth mentioning, but this was kind of like my little welcoming to coming down to Siberia to hear this cat cry about whatever it was he was sniveling about. But anyways, so I get down there in this 4-man tank, and I actually end up in a tank with an individual that I knew from doing time with in San Quentin, and he was from San Jose, John Rodriguez. And this was an individual, I mentioned him in an episode, I don't know, probably episode like 40 or something, midway through somewhere, where he was in Quentin. He ended up getting caught up in a situation with yours truly, Lencho. Everybody from San Jose ends up running into that cat somehow, some way. But he ended up getting caught up with Lencho and Dancing Bear. I want to say he got into a phone conversation or something, and they ended up deeming him. So I brought him back in Quentin, and then they ended up deeming him later on for something else. But he was there, cool cat. I don't even remember who the other dude was that was in there. There was only 2 cats in that 4-man tank, so there was an empty bunk in there, which was cool. But after having been down there for, I don't know, I want to say a good week, maybe 2 weeks, I started peeping the scene out and checking out some of the other tanks. And there was a tank right across from me, 336, where there was a couple cats that seemed like some good cats that I was associating with. And the a couple of other guys that came down with me from 5C were in some of the other tanks. Everybody was kind of spread out. But I started to see that there was some benefits from being in one of the bigger tanks. and it wasn't so bad. Again, I had just gotten used to being, by myself. Shoot time, that's what it does to you. It makes you antisocial, you get cabin fever and all that stuff. So you really don't want to be around anybody else. Everything irritates you. To hear somebody breathe, to hear somebody eating loud. I don't know. I don't think I'm the only one. I know some of you that have done a lot of shoot time the same way. You know what I mean? I used to stay pissed off all the time in the cell. I don't know why. Well, I'm not gonna say all the time, but a good amount of the time, and that's just what it does to you. It's just you're at a low point in your life, you're slammed down, you're way up there in Pelican Bay, and it's just that's what it does to you over the course of time. Anyway, so after I stay there in this four-man tank for a couple of weeks, I start to acclimate myself. I start to, get into that routine where you're programming now in the dorm type setting. And I was kind of surprised by how fast I was able to readjust to that, because again, I was used to doing time by myself, but it wasn't that bad, so I was checking out 336, and like I said, there looked like some advantages from being over there. There's a lot more cats over there. They used to stay up and gamble, and there's just a lot of things that you can get into. So eventually I would end up moving to 336. And once I moved over there, some of the other cats, some of the other homies, they all moved over there. So we basically took that tank over. And it's crazy. I know what some of you are gonna think, but being in that type of environment, again, a lot of us had done a lot of time. A lot of us were programmed. A lot of us had that mentality, because of what we were, affiliated with. Household policies, doing things a certain way. And I'm not talking about being a dictator or nothing like that. But when I moved over there to 336, there were some things that, so again, my whole purpose for getting at these cats is I didn't come in there trying to dictate nothing. It was just, I figured if we're gonna be in there living with each other, it's the same thing you do when you have a celly. Hey, hey celly, check it out. Every morning I hit the floor. I hit the floor, wipe everything down, get all the dust bunnies up and all that good stuff. And this is something I do daily. So let's work out some type of, rotating schedule. You get it one day, I get it the next day. So basically that's what we ended up doing. And everybody was cool with it. But I ended up putting all the policies up on the wall. I put them up on the wall. Everybody knew them, but hey, drop one, drown one. When you're pissing, flush the toilet. Don't nobody want to hear all that. As far as the shower, no spitting, no blub, blub, no doo no doo. Hold up. Let me say that again about the shower. As far as the shower, no spitting, no blank, no blank, no blank, no blank. And it's funny because some of the COs over time, they would come down there. The writing I put up on the wall, I had it waxed up there, but it was in some nice, some nice writing. And they actually came down there with their cell phones through the window and took pictures. I don't know what they were doing. They were probably like, "Hey man, check these dudes out, man. These guys that are used to, they're bringing that gang mentality in there, and they got the household policies, waxed up on the wall." I don't know what they were doing, but anyways, so it ended up being cool. 336 was the spot. We had the tank hooked up. We had a good program, and over time, we even started doing the machina early in the morning. Those of us that weren't just sitting around just doing nothing. There was some of us that I had them doing a good arm routine. We had a dip routine going. Used to be able to do pull-ups off the TV. So we had a cool program. But I'm going to tell you guys like this. There was probably about 10 of us in that tank that were all associated with these cases. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this because, it's like when we all got down there, there was a lot of bad, there was a lot of bad sentiment amongst different cats. Let's just say, when you have these type of indictments where there's a lot of people that end up getting indicted and people start cooperating and people start burning each other up, and there's betrayals. And this cat, he ends up laying down, and when he rolled, he exposed this individual. Now he's exposed, so he ends up rolling over, and then when he rolls over, he exposes these guys. And these three right here, they, as a result, they ended up rolling over. So there's a lot of bad feelings. People were holding grudges, and up until we got down to Siberia, a lot of those feelings, I want to say, everybody just kind of kept them to themselves. They kept them in check. It was what it was. Everybody made their own decision for whatever reason. And it was, with some cats, instead of being selective about, what they decided to expose, they just gave up everything. And some people felt like, you know what, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to go that far. You could have just did X, Y, and Z and got on, and you would have been cool. But you chose to go all out, and I'm not feeling that. So those feelings, they started to come to the surface in 336. And there was a lot of us down there, and I'm just gonna say this. It wasn't, when I was in the county jail, I wasn't still trying to be boxer from the NF. I wasn't still trying to carry myself as a C, meaning I wasn't trying to continue to be a shot caller. I wasn't trying to dictate people's programs, or I didn't still think I had status. I know a lot of guys that end up on that side, they have a hard time adjusting, especially when they've been used to being in a position. Now you're on your own 2 feet, and you're not about that no more. There's a lot of individuals that have a hard time adjusting to that, and I didn't, but I did recognize that I still had a lot of influence over a lot of these guys. And it's because it wasn't because I was pushing a line or nothing like that. There was just a lot of youngsters that respected me because I've been around. I had done a lot of time, and I was a seasoned C. So, a lot of it was just they would look to me for guidance, even in their situations. Like, bro, I don't got all the answers in this situation. You know, I'm kind of like I'm shooting in the dark like you. I don't know. This stuff is gonna eventually get figured out, and I'm thinking you're gonna be okay, but I don't know. But anyways, but what I'm trying to tell you guys is, I kind of use that influence to keep these guys from jumping on each other, because it was obvious. I could tell that there was just some resentment, between certain individuals. Once we had been there for a while, and we kind of figured out the program, how often they searched, and who worked down there, who was cool, who wasn't cool. Once we pretty much had got settled in, I started making wine. I started making batches of wine. And I told you guys before, I used to make it, and it was fire. And again, I know a lot of cats say that they used to make some good wine. Is that right? Okay, here, make it. Here's the material. They ended up making some mop water, some nasty, just some foul, sweet Kool-Aid, some sour Kool-Aid with no alcohol, probably 0.5% of alcohol. But anyways, I learned how to make that shit on death row. Matter of fact, from, Hector Ayala, and, Chato Sandoval, and there was some other cats. They had some cold recipes. So every week I started making a batch. And because there was 10 of us, they were pretty big batches. It was probably around a good anywhere from 8 to 10 gallons. It would take like 4 cats to help me strain all that shit. Have about 300 apples, couple hundred oranges. I'm talking about, we used to go big. But when one of the things that I noticed is that when these guys got full of alcohol, those bad feelings started coming out. They started coming out more and more. There were, a couple situations ended up happening, and it didn't end up getting out of control, but a couple dudes got thumped on, and it was because of the alcohol. If there wasn't no alcohol, shit wouldn't have happened. It was obvious. Cats were feeling their liquor, and you know they were feeling that courage, and next thing you know, boom, somebody's getting thumped on. So, anyways, because I was making it, and because I had a lot of contraband, and I like my contraband, I used to get pissed off when these cats would start acting up. They didn't know how to control control themselves. They didn't know how to hold their liquor. The reason why I was making it was to enjoy it. You know what I mean? To kind of take one day out of the week and to just kind of enjoy it, try to make that environment a little bit better. But some of these cats didn't know how to drink to enjoy it. They ended up getting just straight toasted, drunk, sloppy drunk, where they're running into walls and talking shit, talking loud, and doing stupid shit. So I used to tell, I was to the point where I was like, you know what? If you guys don't know how to kick back and just enjoy this shit, I'm gonna stop making it. Because if I lose my contraband because somebody, was in there doing some dumb shit, it's gonna be an issue, man, straight up. So every week, it started to get worse and worse, and shit started escalating. So this one week, like every other week, I made a good batch. Honestly, I probably ended up making too much because you don't need no more than 2 or 3 tumblers of that shit, and you would be drunk straight up. It was like drinking some malt liquor. But so everybody got a good issue that day. So what ends up happening is there's a cat named Bozo. I don't remember what neighborhood he's from, San Jose, but Bozo, he got drunk to the point to where he started to have issues with somebody else in there. And apparently this guy's brother told on Bozo or something. Something happened where, Bozo was still holding a grudge and he wanted to deal with this individual. And I could tell that Bozo was drunk, and I was telling Bozo, bro, you're drunk. You just go ahead and lay down, bro. If you want to get this cat tomorrow, you're still feeling the same way, it's all good. But come on, bro, you're drunk. You know what I mean? Lay down, man. Go to sleep and sleep that shit off. And he was on one. He had his mindset that he was gonna do something to this individual, but he was drunk. And he was drunk to the point where he was actually crying tears, like, no, fuck that. I'm this individual box, he did this, he did that, I ain't feeling it, man. And I ended up telling Bozo, bro, lay down, homie. I lightweight felt like I was being disrespected because I made the wine, and now you're gonna act out and act stupid. I'm gonna end up losing my contraband. Maybe some of us gonna end up getting rolled up. We got it good. Kick back, bro. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, he didn't want to lay down. He kept on acting up. And it got to the point to where I was like, Bozo, if you don't lay down, bro, you know what I mean? It's gonna be bad for you, homie. I'm trying to tell you, man. I'm trying to look out for you. Just kick back, bro. Lay down and sleep it off. If you wake up tomorrow and you want to get with this cat's program, it's all good, homeboy, but you're drunk. But he wouldn't listen. He wouldn't listen. So, I was trying to put him on his bunk. I was trying to just make him lay down, just kick back. Because again, he was crying, spitting all over himself. But he just kept on going on and on. So I just took off on him. I took off. It got to the point where I was irritated with this dude. And I got love for Bozo. He ended up getting life. So I know damn well he's not gonna see this video. But if you happen to see it, Bozo, I still got love for you, boy. But anyways, so I ended up taking off on him. And there was another individual in there named Scooter. Scooter was a cool cat. When I took off on him, Scooter took off, which he didn't need to do. Bozo wasn't even fighting back. I drilled him a couple times and laid him down, and he was just gonna kick back. But Scooter came over there and he got a couple punches in. So, anyways, they heard that. They must have heard it. And they came in and Bozo's hairs, he had long hair. His hair was all fucked up. And so they take him out. They end up taking him out. They don't know what's going on, but they just take him out. So there was a Sureño in there, and he was a cool cat, cool dude. but you're in that situation now, and you got to look at things different. We weren't down there banging on Sureño, so he was down there for whatever reason, but there was another cat in there named Gypsy from San Francisco, and I forget what started. Something started between these two, but they were drunk, foaming at the mouth, talking shit, and the next thing you know, they get off. So they're going toe to toe, right? They're going at it, and the Sureño put hands on him. He gave him the business and knocked his grill. He knocked homeboy's teeth out. He had two teeth that were on the ground, and we broke it up. We broke it up, and Gypsy, like I said, he's from San Francisco. I don't know him. He's not from my hood, but he claimed Frisco. And when he got beat up, he's walking around the tank, with the towel on his mouth from getting his grill knocked out. And he's like, "Hey B, he's like, you gonna just let him do me like that?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about, bro? You guys went heads up, and hey, homeboy, you got beat up, bro. What do you want me to do? You want me to jump on him because you lost, bro? It was a heads up fade, homeboy. You know what I mean? Hey, I feel bad for you. You want your run backs. I'll make sure you get your run backs, but I don't know what you want me to do, bro." He wanted me to jump on the dude because he got beat up and because he was a Sureño. He was trying to play that role. I was like, nah, man, that ain't gonna happen. So, anyways, now everybody's in there, all the energy's starting to build in there. And there's a couple youngsters that first termers. These guys are out of their element, man. But we're all in there now trying to break shit up, and there's wine being spilled everywhere. So I want to say the Sureño started, we had him sitting down at a table, and Gypsy, we're trying to just make this cat lay down. Hey, bro, you're gonna have to suck it up, man. Either go get your grill fixed, or patch yourself up and suck it up, man. But we're trying to get everybody calmed down, and I guess the Sureño was laughing at him or something, and somebody caught that, and the next thing you know, we're thumping this dude. And so, anyways, we get on this guy, but as we're getting on him, I stop everybody. I push everybody back, man. Look, what are we doing? You know what I mean? What me myself, when when I'm close to somebody, if you're my boy and you take off on somebody, I'm gonna take off too. I got your back. It's just that's a habit. I didn't even think twice when I seen there was a couple cats that I was close to when they took off. I took off, but it was wrong. It was wrong for us to do that. So I stopped that. I pushed him back, and I'm like, "No, we're not gonna do that, man. We're not gonna bang on this dude like that." And he was a cool cat. Again, it was the alcohol. It was the alcohol. So you got these youngsters in there now. Now they're like, "Hey, man, why you guys doing homeboy like that? And why are you doing this? And why are you doing that?" Somebody throws a punch, and now he's getting took off on. So we take off on this next guy. So that situation we end up getting that situation under control. Somebody gets kicked in the face. We're tripping off this dude that kicked this guy in the face. Why are you gonna kick? Why are you gonna sneak homie like that, man? You're gonna kick him in the face when he wasn't looking. And he was one of the coolest cats in the tank. He was just trying to stop these guys from going at it, and somebody took off on him. So we end up taking off on this dude. This guy was associated with our case, though. He was a cool cat. And if you're watching, boy, I know you know who you are, and it's nothing but love, bro, but it happened. So we end up taking off on the homie, and once he's done, we stop. And from that point, though, it just continued to escalate. The bad feelings that cats had, about the case and about getting burnt or somebody that felt betrayed, they all started coming out. All that shit came to the surface. And for me to go into every detail of every fight, I probably end up boring you guys. There were so many fights going on that day in that tank that It just was just nonstop. I'm talking teeth, blood, alcohol. We fucked that tank up. There was shit everywhere in there. But when it was all said and done, eventually when it was a couple people got knocked out. So towards the end, when the last two cats got beat up down there, I guess they heard it up front. They ended up hearing that something was going on back there, and they came back there. And this is after they already took Bozo out. So this was like an hour later. They come back there, and they look around in the tank, and like I said, there's wine everywhere. There's blood. You got towels on the floor that got blood on them. You got t-shirts that got blood on them. They come back there, they look, and they're like, oh, hell no. Everybody's trying to play it off. These guys act like they're playing chess. This guy goes back to acting like he's drawing, but everybody in there is breathing hard and trying to, control their breathing because we were all getting them up back there. And they ended up coming back around 5 minutes later with the sergeant. They came in there, they popped the gate, they walked in, and they were like, oh, hell no. Everybody, all you guys, roll it up. Every last one of you, man, all you guys are gone. So that's what they ended up doing. They ended up rolling almost everybody up in that tank. There was just a couple of us that so what they did was they took us all out and they brought us downstairs in the tunnels and they put us all in holding cages down there, holding cells, by ourselves. And they came by and they medically checked everybody. If you had a nick on your knuckle, any kind of abrasion on your face or anything like that, you were gone. No questions asked. It didn't matter if, you did it the day before doing something else that wasn't related. It didn't matter. If they seen a mark, you were gone. So those of us that didn't have marks, we were allowed to stay up there. And, it was kind of messed up when that happened. Everybody got a chance to get that shit off their chest. I guess that's the one good thing that came out of it. But they took everybody. It changed a lot of shit. They took a lot of the good homies. Anyways, the thing I want to say about it though is this. These big indictment cases where there's 10, 15, 20 cats and a bunch of them end up in that situation, and it's always going to happen. History has proven that time and time again. You got to make choices for yourself that's going to end up affecting or hurting somebody else. It might not have to, but sometimes it might. And you're either gonna hold a grudge, and that's how you're gonna deal with it. You're gonna deal with it in your own way, or you're gonna come to terms with it and say, you know what, hey, it's part of that process, man. I can't hold it against you when I'm doing the same thing to such and such and such and such. It's one of those kind of weird situations, man, that obviously it was new to me. This was the first time I was in a situation like that myself, but it was crazy. It was crazy how everything played out. There was a lot of cats that looked up to certain individuals because of their status or because they had been around, and then when they end up making decisions to help themselves, they throw that individual under the bus and they take it personal. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. I can't even give no advice on it because it's bad business all the way across the board. I understand that. The only thing I will say is that those are real situations that people end up in. And I know that people say all the time, I hear it all the time. Yeah, if I was in that situation, I'd walk it out, or I do this and I do that. Sounds good. Sounds real good. Keep playing that Mr. Honorable, Mr. Integrity role. But that ass was in that same situation. But just trust me, the ones that talk about it the most, the ones that are more critical about, other cats that do it, they're going to be the first ones to go. They just, they should just consider themselves blessed that they haven't been exposed. They haven't been put in that type of situation. But had they have been, that's the only way you're going to find out. So anyways, it is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. So obviously, those of us that got to stay back that night, it was all about cleaning up looked like a hurricane came through there. We cleaned up the tank that night. It was nothing but empty bunks in there. But eventually some cats would start to come back, and they let a couple come back over time. But there's a lot more that happened in Siberia that I'm going to tell you guys about in some of the coming episodes. Again, I got to get my mojo back. It's been a while since, I did an inner demon. I'm going to keep on doing the stories the way that I've been doing them, like this, the Mexican Mafia stories that I've been putting out. You guys should get one tomorrow morning along with this inner demon right here. But I'm also going to do the profiles the same way that I've been doing them, typing them up, throwing the pictures in there, just to give you guys a different format. Anyways, this is probably a good time to cut this episode right here before I get into the next part of what happened down there in Siberia. I know it's been a while since I've done Inner Demons, and I know you guys are gonna say when we're gonna have to wait another 2-3 weeks for the next episode. Hopefully not. I doubt it. I understand that you guys want more content. I read the comments all the time, and I take that as a compliment. You guys are asking us for more content. That means that you guys are liking the content that we're putting out. So, it's a good thing. But just understand, sometimes things happen, and I catch the flack for it, and it's all good. I understand it. It's my channel, but it's nothing that I'm doing purposely or nothing that anybody else is doing purposely. It's just part of the process. I'm not going to make a bunch of promises, you guys. I'd rather just let, our actions speak for themselves. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and cut this short. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. But at any rate, drop a comment and let me know what you think. With that being said, this your boy B, and I'm out.